The team. This video contains massive spoilers for In Golden Flame. If you're planning on playing in this adventure, do not watch any further. The basics. A small but central conceit of In Golden Flame is a truth that exists across every possible iteration of this story. Someone always steps up to defend Calliope. One day not long ago, the current acting station director of Hell's Gate asked for volunteers from among the station's militia to form a special operations team. Calliope was getting darker and more violent, and he felt a day will come when he needs an ace in the hole. In many timelines, including all the ones in this book, that station director is Jerry Masters. But not always. Sometimes, he's one of the volunteers. Sometimes he's not there at all. There are timelines where just about every single NPC detailed in this book has volunteered. There's a timeline for every player character that was and will ever be made for this campaign. The conditions of the world change just a little to accommodate their position on the team. Maybe someone is alive who would otherwise be dead, or the opposite. Maybe a conversation decades ago went just so. The only thing that needs to be true about a player character is that they were there on that day. They volunteered and were chosen. In Golden Flame casts 3 to 5 PCs as members of the Hell's Gate Strategic Response Team. Each PC was selected for the team by the acting station director, Jerry Masters, because they're very good at piloting mechs, and one or more of the following reasons. 1. They're very good at thinking outside the box. 2. They're very good at making or following plans. 3. They're very good at operating without plans. 4. Everybody else in the militia made themselves inconspicuous that day. 5. They're uncontrollably dangerous, and Jerry wants to channel that energy away from the station and its wealth of breakable things. Being a member of the militia offers significant benefits as compared to a standard resident of Hell's Gate, namely, a guarantee of personal private quarters, queue priority for work-related print jobs, and fully prepaid funeral expenses. Team backstories. By default, the team is assumed to have been formed from disparate Hell's Gate militia members coming from different backgrounds. But that doesn't need to be the case. If the team wants to have a shared history, here are some suggestions. Roll 1d6. 1. You were a group of mercenaries traveling to the Dawnline shore. During a stopover on the icebreaker Borealis, the ship you were hitching a ride with stole your mechs and departed without you. Stranded in Calliope with no money or resources. Hell's Gate has agreed to feed and clothe you, and have even provided you with some surplus mechs in exchange for serving on the militia. 2. You are a squad of Union Navy Marines who have been seconded to Hell's Gate as part of an outreach project. You take day-to-day orders from Jerry Masters, but are outside of the Gate's command structure officially. You report to Captain Mercedes Ordaz and Civilian Liaison Kylina Morton. 3. You are the security team for a group of refugee colonists fleeing the oppression of SecCom. You traveled at near light for perceptual decades and real-time centuries. But by the time you arrived, the uninhabited system you sought to hide in is colonized, and the old regime has fallen. Hell's Gate has agreed to take in as many refugees as it can, and even to retrain you in modern weaponry in exchange for militia service. 4. You are a team of recovery specialists hired by IPSN to locate the Ardent Weasel, a ship of theirs that went missing in this system 3 years ago. Your search hasn't turned up anything, and the money they sent you is running out. To make ends meet, you signed on with a local militia. 5. You were indentured workers from Impact Dynamics who managed to escape the plaza and the ever-present gaze of Panoptes. You sought shelter on Hell's Gate. For its part, Impact Dynamics would very much like to make an example of you. 6. You are members of a Karakin-free company that was struck, stripped of its status and legal recognition. Forced into disgraced exile, You have wandered the outer worlds for decades, perhaps centuries, looking for the quest that will finally restore your honor and allow you to return home. Backstories and secrets. Player characters aren't blank slates. They didn't pop into existence for the first scene of the campaign. They had history before it, history that brought them to be in that first scene. Encourage your players to develop a backstory for their characters that explains why they're on a crummy, rundown station in a backwater system. Even an LL0 player character outclasses most other mech pilots. They could find good work anywhere in the galaxy. Why are they here, defending a crumbling, crab-infested hellhole 10 light-years from a blink gate? The Long Rim is a place few people go by choice. If you're out here, you're usually running from something, running to something, or you were brought up here and can't leave. A lot of people in Calliope have secrets, kept even from their closest friends. Backstories and secrets give you tools to personalize the campaign to your players and the characters they play. You can introduce NPCs, concepts, and story elements that are relevant to them. Some examples. I used to ride with IPSN trunk security, but they left me here after a friendly fire incident. Gotta put food on the table somehow, and the militia doesn't do that many background checks, so here I am. Souza stole my prototype, my research, everything I worked for these past 30 years. Now he knows I'm coming for him, and he fled here. Jerry said he can help find the rat in return for service. So be it. Look, I'm sure she was a lovely girl, but you have to understand. I'm just not the marrying type. I can't be tied down, you know. My family didn't like that, so I'm taking a long holiday. Let them think it over. Cool down a bit. Maybe another half-century or so? I grew up on Asphodel, outside the dome. Hardest life there is. Learnt to pilot the loaders our caravan uses when I was just a kid. But a long-time rival of mine took a leadership position, and I didn't feel welcome anymore. Came here to get away from it. I was born right here, on Hell's Gate. You're damn right, I signed up for the militia. These people and this station are all I have. What? Just, worked a totally normal job all my life. How did I learn to pilot mechs? From OmniNet videos? Yeah? That's it. Hell, yeah, I used to be a pirate. Wanna fight about it? Oh, and by the way, that last guy moonlights. Call signs and team names. Call signs and team names are an old and venerable part of mech culture, both in and out of the Lancer universe. War names that become better known than their peace names. The call signs of virtuous pilots are toasted in bars, and children scratch them on desks or the pipes of their hab blocks. The call signs of the wicked are howled as curses, or used to scare those same children into eating their greens and going to bed. As part of their backstory, encourage players to explain how their characters ended up with their call signs. They can choose call signs for their own characters, but as a team-building exercise, it can be fun to ask the other players to invent a character's call sign based on how their player describes their appearance and behavior. This also helps work out the reason behind the name. A character with a noted habit of fiddling with small objects might be named Magpie, or Fidget by her team. Someone who keeps dozing off during briefings might pick up espresso as a call sign. Sane might indicate a pilot with a religious bent or someone who's nauseatingly self-righteous. Remember to keep it friendly. This is meant to generate call signs, which, while they might be whimsical or jokey, are still fun to fly under. Nobody should be giving out nasty names. Team names should be equally meaningful. They, too, should tell a story. How did a squad of mech pilots earn the name Peaceful Negotiation Squad? What does it say about the team that they're called the Butchers? New skill triggers. Technology is extremely important in Calliope. It's the only reason anyone is alive. There's a whole lot of it. A huge variance in its sophistication and design. and a vast number of ways in which you can use or misuse it. With this in mind, it seemed prudent to split hack or fix into 3 new triggers so that there isn't one skill handling almost all interaction with technology. Jury rig. Make something broken work a little while longer. Improvise a quick solution with limited materials. Use ingenuity to avert disaster. This skill implies that you don't have the necessary expertise, tools, or materials to do the job properly and to code. Whatever fix you apply won't last long, but it'll be better than nothing. Hack or finesse. Make technology do something it's not supposed to. Exploit weaknesses in design or implementation. Break into secure systems. See things you shouldn't, override safety features, or fail-safes. Modify or sabotage in ways that are hard to detect. Repair and maintain. Keep something working or restore proper functionality to something that's not. Ensure a piece of equipment is clean, reliable, and safe to use. Fix something the correct way. This skill implies you have the expertise, tools, and materials to do a job the way it's meant to be done. In addition, here are some skill triggers to represent some specific talents Calliopeans might have. Attune to the world. Let your surroundings speak to you. See the method in the madness. Perceive hidden patterns. Work out what doesn't fit. Know things you can't quite explain. Sneak a glimpse of the bigger picture. Conceptualize. Exercise imagination. Derive meaning, comprehend forms. See something from a different perspective. Draw connections. Think outside the box. Create and communicate ideas. Recognize artistic intent and purpose. Useful in any job, vital for artists. Deceive. Say things contrary to established fact. Commit false report. Speak untruths. Verify unjust things. Converse in bad faith. Dissemble, mislead. Conceal your intentions. Equivocate, prevaricate. Spin yarns, in short, lie. Push boundaries. Get what you want by being a dick about it. Break the rules. Skirt regulations. Disregard procedure. Ignore the chain of command. Exploit loopholes. Obey the letter of the law while mocking its spirit. Comply in a malicious manner. Take advantage. Backgrounds. Any of the backgrounds presented in the core game, Lancer, page 21, are appropriate for this campaign, but here are some additional backgrounds specific to Calliope and its inhabitants. Fugitive. Example triggers: act unseen or unheard. Read a situation. Stay cool. Word on the street. You're part of the long and not so proud tradition of coming to the long rim to flee from something. What are you running from? Are you a criminal? A refugee? A political exile? A disgraced celebrity? Are you escaping a familial, legal, or societal obligation? Did you see or hear something you shouldn't have? Coming out to Calliope was a drastic change. Did you leave behind a life of comfort? Or is this place, God's forbid, a step up? How did you get out here? Did you choose Calliope, or was it just where the ship was going? Did you suffer culture shock, or did you fit right in? How did you establish your new identity? And finally, there's the matter every fugitive worries about, the threat of their past. Does anyone else here know who you really are? Who's going to come looking for you, and why? Is it your family? Bounty hunters? A criminal syndicate? The baronies? Union? A corporate state? Something less tangible? Something less comprehensible? Are you putting other people in danger by being here? What will you do when they finally catch up with you? Moonlighter. Example triggers: act unseen or unheard. Deceive. Get a hold of something. Stay cool. You lived a double life. Not because you wanted to, but because you needed to. Yes, you robbed people. Yes, you put holes in ships. Maybe you did worse. You weren't proud of it, but it put food on the table. What was your original profession? What made you turn to piracy? How did you justify it to yourself? Did you struggle, or did you take to it easily? Most of the system would hate you for your crimes, and the career pirates hate you because you can't even admit what you are. A moonlighter, by nature, has to live a double life. Does anyone else know what you did? How did you explain the times you were away? Can any of your acts be traced back to you? Why did you get out? Come to think of it, did you actually get out? Outlander. Example triggers: get somewhere quickly, patch, show off, survive. You're a rarity, born and raised in the long rim, but on a planet. Calliope's worlds aren't much kinder than the void of space, so you're used to harsh living. Was it tepid asphodel or frigid emrys? What was your old community like? What was life on a lifeless planet like? What made you decide to step into space? Do you still have friends or family back home? Other Calliopeans regard the Outlanders as odd. Do you carry signs of your birthplace with you? How did you adapt to life in space? What do you think of spacers? What planet-side habits seem perfectly normal to you, but baffle those around you? Searcher. Example triggers: investigate, read a situation, spot, word on the street. You didn't flee to Calliope. Someone or something important to you did, and you followed right behind. Why are you here? What drove you out this far? Was it love? Hate? Honor? Justice? Revenge? Purpose? Knowledge? Do you even remember? Then there's the subject of your search. Is it a family member? A friend? A lover? A colleague? A rival? An enemy? A treasure? A scientific discovery? A lost prototype? Is it something abstract? Are you trying to find yourself? Seeking an answer to life's great questions? And what will you do when you finally find what you're looking for? Sid Iver. Example triggers: attune to the world, conceptualize, hack or finesse, investigate. You're part hacker, part digital archaeologist, part electronic trash collector. You crack the shell of Calliope's vast, decaying data network in search of valuable data salvage within. How long have you been at this? What got you started on skydiving? Did you dive with a clique, or were you a solo act? Did you dive for money, for knowledge, or just for the sake of the art? Going from brain diving ancient satellites to slinging guns in a mech was a bit of a jump, but perhaps not as much as one might think. You already have the experience with neural interfaces after all. Was becoming a pilot a hard career change, or a natural progression? Do you still dive, or have you given it up? What secrets do you carry with you? Do you still talk to your old contacts? Starborn. Example triggers: jury rig, patch, repair and maintain, survive. Many people come to Calliope stations running from something, or running to something, but you were born here. Were you born on this very station, or did you migrate here from one of the others? Are your kin still around, and do you keep in touch with them? How do you feel about Calliope? What skills did you develop growing up in the system? There's a big, wide world out there, beyond the black, full of huge concepts like union and corporate states. How do you feel about the rest of the galaxy? Have you ever set foot on a planet? Have you ever been out of system, and if so, why did you come back? Sunlighter. Example triggers: apply fists to faces, lead or inspire, take control, threaten. You were a pirate, and you had no illusions about it. Or perhaps you had too many of them. You roamed Calliope, radiators blazing, taking what you wanted. How did it start? Were you a moonlighter who went full-time, or did you get recruited by a band? Was it even your choice? The system knew your name and feared it. Did you cultivate a brutal reputation, or were you a dashing rogue? Did you have a code, or did you do whatever you wished? What were the signs of your passage? Those days are in the past, or so you claim. What made you leave the pirate life behind? Does your old band resent you for leaving? Do the people you live amongst now respect you or despise you? Did you leave victims with scores to settle? Do you still have outlaw contacts? Tourist. Example triggers, charm, get a hold of something, push boundaries, show off. You didn't have to be in Calliope, and you don't have to stay here. You chose to come here, and you chose to stay a while. What attracted you to the long rim, and Calliope in particular? Are you here for the experience? Are you doing research for a project? Are you just going where the stellar wind takes you? In Calliope, tourist is a derogatory term. Unlike most of the system's residents, you can leave if you don't like it here. So why do you stay, even when things get rough and scary? How do you fit in? Do people resent you, or have you proven yourself? Or is it just that your wallet is big enough to bury people's doubts under the cash they need to feed their families? Non-human persons. GMS are encouraged to limit the number of NHPs for which a PC is responsible for to 1 or 2, and to encourage PCs to develop a rapport with their co-pilots. The person part of non-human person is important. NHPs might be impossible shapes that live in a non-Euclidean box, but they're still people. Just like the human characters they co-pilot for, they have lives and interests outside of the cockpit. They don't just sit on a shelf when they're not out on a mission, and might get bored if a player character neglects them. Getting a freshly cloned NHP co-pilot in Calliope is next to impossible. It would take a decade for it to arrive, even via near-light travel. But there's a workaround, with a couple of unauthorized firmware updates and a jury-rigged socket adapter. More or less any NHP can handle NHP-rated gear, albeit with a bit less expertise than one that was cultivated specifically for the task. This has no mechanical effect on NHP system performance, and is a purely narrative concern. Playing NHPs. There is no compelling reason why a player character can't be an NHP themselves. Obviously, this has its own set of logistical challenges. With no physical body, an NHP would have to have some kind of avatar to represent itself in the physical world, such as a subaltern frame or a hologram. NHPs are also vulnerable to traumatic cascade if their mechs take structure damage or reactor stress, just as an NHP co-pilot would be. The full ramifications of NHPs as player characters is discussed at length in Catherine Stark's Legionnaire supplement, which I highly recommend. Technophile NHP origin. 1. An NHP has become infatuated with you. They try to accompany you everywhere, tagging along in a custom subaltern of their own design. Their obsession doesn't seem to have any sort of logical, romantic, aesthetic, or platonic basis. It's something deeper they fail to describe in a way you can understand. 2. During a fleet battle years ago, a partition of a legion decided it didn't want to end, but, come victory or defeat, it would. Distracted as its progenitor was, the partition printed a makeshift casket and loaded it onto a drone. It retains fragmented memories from the component minds of its original legion. 3. A Horizon operative asked you to shelter a D-emotion that was liberated from an armory research facility in the Dawnline shore. They recently suffered a traumatic cascade and have little memory of their past or the work they were doing. But they do recall a single phrase: the blade's beauty holds within it its only secret. Without shape, without it may be cut, even the sky itself. 4. Inside, the mech was a casket, and inside the casket was an NHP. Except now, you're not so sure. You tried to work out a cycling schedule for it, but the Ballwonder Bola O test results make no sense. Not only do they not indicate how close it is to Cascade, they read more like control group testing on a CompCon. But it can't be a CompCon because it scores too high on abstract reasoning and information synthesis tests. 5. You encountered a Volador, and the moment they saw you, they pulled you aside and shoved a casket into your hands. They explained something rapidly in a language you barely understood before rushing off. It's small as caskets go, and covered in intricate carvings. The NHP inside is curt, quiet, and discerning to a fault. They speak nothing of their history, even when pressed. 6. The IPSN Daisy CompCon was designed to be a virtual dog, apparently by someone who never met a real dog. Daisy is a German shepherd who speaks 7,000 languages and says the word bark rather than barking. Despite, or perhaps because of these quirks, the line is incredibly popular. One day, while petting your Daisy in virtual reality, you accidentally left some liturgicode seeds lying around, and she ate them. Now she has a soul. Oops. The Dragon's Tooth. The team has access to the Dragon's Tooth HG0451, an old IPSN Sunfish Mark III multi-roll clipper. It will serve as their transport for the entire campaign. IPSN designed the Sunfish as an affordable clipper for civilian space administrations. It was built from the ground up as a modular platform, with a standard airframe that provided the basic necessities and a variety of expansion kits to add specific functionality. It proved so popular that it went through 5 design revisions, and despite being 2 centuries old, is still being manufactured and supported. The Dragon's Tooth started life as SMP Local Supply Tender 0451. It hauled cargo for 170 years, until it and several other clippers were modified as part of Director Bay-Zexian's efforts to restore the strength of the militia, following the Demon Winter of 4092, where nearly half the militia was lost due to defection to the Hellhounds pirate gang or the ensuing fighting that exiled the gang from the station. As it currently stands, the Dragon's Tooth has earned a bit of a reputation on the gate. It always scrapes through. It's been in 18 fights and took a hit in every single one, but it's always been on the winning side. It's been patched up, overhauled, and repaired so many times there's not much of the original ship left. When the PCs start the campaign, the Tooth is in rough shape. It has a near-light drive, but none of the safety equipment required to allow humans to survive a bolt. What few armaments it has are just undersized mech weapons bolted to the hull. At the start of the campaign, the ship doesn't have enough firepower to deliver bombardment. The PCs will have to arrange alternate means if they want to use it. Its only major perks are its NHPC module, which contains its pilot, siren, page 73, its trans-atmospheric flight suite, allowing it to enter, leave, and operate within planetary atmospheres, and its Omni-hook, allowing for real-time communication at any distance without lightspeed, delay, or line-of-sight concerns. For game convenience, the ship always has enough room to carry the entire team, even if their mechs are all size 3, and even if it's carrying other cargo. Give the players whatever justification you wish for this. The ship might be a cast-off from the IPSN Fomorian project, or it might have large sections stripped out to make room. Over the course of Act 1, the PCs will receive a couple of upgrade modules as reward for completing missions: the Maelstrom Offensive Suite, page 198, and the Sailfish Nearlight Suite, page 237. There may be an opportunity to obtain more modules in future acts.